Hi, everybody. It's Colette Barron Reed, and I'm here with my fantastic team member, Kristen.
Hello, hello. I'm so happy to be here again. We
Yeah,
had a great conversation last time.
I know. I love talking to you, so it's going to be fun. And we have a subject that we're going to be talking about today, and it's all about radical acceptance. I hope that's right. Is that right?
That is right. I've been seeing a lot of comments, and I know that you've also had a lot of conversations online too about what it is. A lot of people are asking, so why not have a convo about it? Let's chat.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So, give me the biggest question people have been asking.
Ooh, okay. The biggest question that I've noticed within the last at least 30 days is what is radical
Ah,
acceptance? How does it change your life?
right. Oh my God, this is a huge one. Okay, this is a big conversation. All right, so let's break down what is radical acceptance first. And a radical acceptance is when you take life on life's terms, you see it for what it is, not for what you want it to be, and you don't see it with baggage, right? You kind of look at it exactly, this is what's happening. Without judgment, without anything, radical acceptance is I'm going to surrender to the fact that this is what it is in its integrity, even something shitty, right? Like whatever it is what it is.
It's the shadow that you're talking about too, right? You got
Uh-huh.
to accept it all, baby.
Yeah, and a lot of people have, spent a long time escaping the shadow, right? And that's a real foundation of my work because you cannot bypass this. You can't. And so radical acceptance enables us to see things exactly as they are and to set ourselves free from them because we discover what needs to be worked on. So for me, I could tell you my first experience with radical acceptance was when I surrendered to the fact that I was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and that's 35 years ago. But that changed my life when I stopped lying to myself and I stopped pretending and I stopped, trying, right, trying to quit. And when I finally saw myself exactly as I was and not the stories that I had built up around this fantasy person that I thought I would be one day or whatever, and I really got myself clear, literally everything changed. And so today, radical acceptance, for me, I have to remember that when there's a situation that I don't like, and that I'm fighting against or I'm over resisting, it may be because I haven't accepted that it's happening, that I might want to not take responsibility for it or accountability for it. We'll talk more, but I want to hear about you. Like, what's it like for you?
Radical acceptance is honestly realizing that my situation isn't who I was or wasn't who I was, right? It's
Yes.
didn't make up who I was. My upbringing, my the things that we did not have, it wasn't going to negate who I was going to be.
Oh, that's
And that,
profound.
but it took a long time.
Uh,
It took a long time, and that was radical acceptance because I want to say at least a decade for me.
yeah. Well, and you're young, but that's amazing. I got to tell you something. What you just said is really profound, and it's really important. So because that is the point of radical acceptance, that it doesn't define us as human beings, that a
Right.
situation that we have no control over or that we might be powerless over, or in what it is, doesn't have to define us. We are not our conditions. And that is really important to recognize because for me, when I first surrendered in radical acceptance, I realized that I was not my addiction, that I was potential, and God didn't make junk, and I wasn't in the dance anymore. I wasn't it, and it exhausted me. And what you're talking about, I think, is so profound today because so many of us are so used to assuming that our identity is related to the conditions of our lives, that we are either successful or failures depending on the conditions, and that isn't true at all. And I think that the radical acceptance is about that also, is about, hey, I'm not defined by these things, but I need to accept them on their terms so that I can move away. Otherwise, they stick to us like gum on the bottom of our shoe.
They do. And it's just, and this goes with anything. It goes with a personal life. It could be a childhood trauma. It could be a workplace situation. It could have had something that happened to you.
Yeah.
And that stuck with you. It's like it was glued to your back, like a demon glued to your back.
Yeah,
Just
totally.
you carry it and you don't realize that. So for me, it was radically accepting that what I went through, what I have gone through in my 20s or whatever has happened to me, my situations, my environment that I was in, so early in life, it wasn't going to be it wasn't going to make who I was.
Yeah, and it wasn't going to predict what he would become.
Absolutely not.
And that's really key with this term, radical acceptance, because it absolutely liberates you to become and contribute. You become more than what you were, because you're not allowing the limitation of the label to define you in a way that prevents you from your future. Somebody said something the other day that karma is in relationship to where it tells you where you are now, but doesn't predict your future, right? Mm-hmm. So in other words, because if you radically accept that you have to be accountable also for certain things, that again gives you a freedom to choose other things. Like if you know, hey, this stuff happened to me. If I pretend it didn't, or if I make it about me and I keep it going, that's on me, right? So if I radically accept these conditions happen, but do I want to be this? No, but I have to take it for what it was. And that's the other thing, because I think that's part of trauma. And I think this is a good conversation because you brought it up, right? Part of the idea of trauma and radical acceptance, and that a lot of people are dealing with this right now, is that trauma gets re-traumatized by certain societal conditions, etc., family things. We can come up with a million different ideas about this, but when we try to fix it and we're actually stuck in time, we're in some other place, as opposed to saying, I have to radically accept that this is part of me. But then I need to find a way how to choose a different response, to protect myself in a way that would give myself a healthier outlook, or to finally surrender to the pain that I've been avoiding, because that's a big one too. Radically accepting that you have grief. Radically accept, like that's why I'm so kind of like not into this like all positive thinking thing, because I think that then just doesn't allow you, right?
No, it's not reality. It's not something, it's what people want you to be, but you cannot go through grief. You cannot really work through trauma without like just being all sunshine and rainbow. That's just not realistic. And anyone who goes to therapy will tell you that.
That was the one thing that I always struggled with. Because I teach about universal law and I look at all these different aspects, but it was the one thing that it never sat with me, where it would be you just, attract the good. And that's, if you focus only on the good, you're going to attract the, like, you can't always only focus on the good. You get freed to do that once you become accountable to heal these things that prevent all of that. And it's not your fault. That's the other thing. It's like radically accepting that this pattern is here, and that means I need to stop and honor it. So it's also honoring. Radical acceptance is also about honoring all parts of your humanity.
For me, when I was practicing this very early on, just realizing my situations and the things that I have been through, is when I practiced radical acceptance, it was about gratitude and honoring the things that I had went through. Because yes, I had different things going on than other people did, other kids did, but my goodness, am I grateful. How did you practice that? How did you practice radical acceptance in your?
When I stopped fighting it, I stopped fighting the story. I stopped fighting the denial. Like I couldn't, I was exhausted. I'll be honest with you. The way that I got into the concept of radical acceptance is complete and absolute exhaustion. I couldn't go, and I couldn't go anymore. I would have died. I would have died. And something happened where I surrendered, and I had this huge spiritual awakening. So radical acceptance for me gave me an extraordinary spiritual awakening where I realized that instead of me trying to change all of these things to make them like palatable for me, right? Like there were situations that I had gotten into that we won't go into, and I know a lot of us do that try to make it something that it isn't because we can't accept what it actually is. So we're going to fake it into something else. And when I finally stopped doing that, and I finally really just said, this happened. And then I'm like, oh, and this is how resilient I became as a result of those. So wait a second, wait. Maybe I'm not such a victim. Maybe, just maybe, right? Like I said, God doesn't make junk. Maybe there's a purpose for me. And maybe all of the things that I went through and I did find that I was more empathetic and compassionate to other people who had been through things too. Right. And when I say that I don't deny anything that's happened, that's happened because it has made me, just like what you said. Like you wouldn't change anything, neither would I. But so many of us, myself included for quite some time, kept trying to change the outer condition when really I needed to change me.
Ooh, so that's how you practice radical acceptance is inner work.
It's only inner work. I mean, you know that and I know that. The only way for us to be liberated and for us, no matter whatever we're looking at in terms of our life, because it leads us to that freedom to be who we were meant to be and to not have ourselves defined by the outer constructs of life. And that is true. It's the inner work. And there's no getting around it, but I also think too that, and I want to go back to that thing I talked about all the happy, joyous, free stuff, because that's something that I think is good, because you do want to be happy, you do want to have joy, you want to have that. But if you are not allowing yourself to experience your grief, your anger, your rage in the moment, or processing these things, they boil up inside of you and they end up very distorted. Our human experience it has a multitude. It's like a diamond with so many different facets, and not all of those facets are beautiful. Like sometimes we have to recognize this is life. What are we going to do with it?
So what you did to practice radical acceptance, you try not to focus too much on that outer, because it was how you were reacting to what was going on around you. Sounds like you also, you just said that when you were dealing with things, you try not to bypass that emotion. So even if it was anger, even if it was sadness, you weren't trying to I'm okay. You were actually feeling what you were going through, because that is radical acceptance is just really being who you are, is what I'm understanding.
Yeah. And also experiencing all your emotions. And I'm going to just give you a caveat with that. All my life, I've not been able to experience anger because it wasn't safe. So I would like to say it would be great if I could practice this perfectly, but I don't. I still have issues around expressing anger, and what do I do with it? Because the way I managed it was to bypass it because it was too frightening. But I've come to a place too, even with the most difficult part of me, is that has now come up where I had to love the part of me that could get angry too, because I was told it wasn't okay. You're not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to be angry. Right? So we have all these messages about who we're allowed to be from when we were young. And radical acceptance is recognizing that those messages were true. They were given to us, but they don't have to be what we build our lives on. But we can't, you know what I mean? So it's, and sometimes it takes a very long time to really feel that freedom from those patterns, because they're hard. And nobody likes to hear that. Everybody likes to know that the new age is going to give you a ticket to happy. And I'd say if you're willing to do the work, you will have a better life than you've ever experienced. But if you're wanting to bypass it, you're not.
See, that's good that you said that, because now I want to know from you, your point of view, what is not radical acceptance,
right,
which I'm already hearing, not bypassing, or what is your true definition of self-acceptance? Because it sounds like you have to go through that.
Radical acceptance is not making excuses for yourself or others. It's about really holding up a mirror and seeing the truth and being willing to either to recognize that, okay, yes, here is this pattern. Is this good for everybody? Or is this an invitation for me? Do I really, know this is happening, or should I make a change that's better for everybody, right? So there's this also too, when we talk about this now, there really is a focus for all of us on the we more than the me, I, right? The me, myself, and I is less important these days than the we. We've seen this. Like, we know this is part of the great transformation. You can't get away with it, right? So therefore, therefore, radical acceptance is not about, oh, that happened, I don't have to do anything about it. Or, oh, well, that happened, I can just decide it's not there anymore.
Or that happened and it doesn't really affect me, so there's nothing that I need to do.
Exactly. And maybe that could be for the odd person, but for most of us, I think taking a really good hard look at ourselves and loving ourselves anyway. That's the other thing. It's not about harsh judgment, because then we get into shame spirals, and then that doesn't work because then you project it on somebody else because you don't really want to do the work. So you're going to find it somebody else that looks like that. They'll do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh yeah, you do it too, so I'm going to chase after you without doing my own work. That's so rampant these days. So I think what's really key is to realize that, okay, we're all in this together, and self-love, self-acceptance is what the next question you would ask, is all about loving yourself as you are. And because you love yourself, you become willing to make the appropriate changes so you can show up in the world and serve. Right? You can show up and serve. And I think that's, it's very cool.
I love that. So, okay, let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Self-love, self-acceptance, showing up to serve. We tend to be extremely hard on ourselves. It is human nature. That is just who we are as people. So what is your opinion on how we can stop beating ourselves up for shortcomings or things just not ending up how we want it to be when we want it to be? How do you stop doing that?
Well, you made a really good point again. You're making lots of good points, Kristen. First of all, you made a comment where you said, this is just who we are. It's not just who we are. It's how society has been built around us. We are not that. The human being is not the conditioning, right? It isn't. We've been told to be hard on ourselves. We live in a consumerist society where if we have to keep consuming in order to keep growing and keep going, right? We've created this behemoth, right? We have ageism, we have sexism, we have racism. We have ways in which the beauty business, like looking on Instagram, so many young people are seeing themselves without acceptance because they compare themselves to each other, and they've got all these filters, and their real life doesn't look like that. I mean, we have created quite a monster. So to radically accept oneself as we are, it means to see beauty and diversity.
Oh, absolutely. You gotta self-love. It goes back to what you were saying earlier, self-love, self-acceptance. And it's interesting because you genuinely have to learn to be true to yourself.
Let's talk about being true to yourself.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because that's also, you can't be true to yourself if you don't know yourself. Most of the people who watch these videos know that I'm an oracle card creator, and that the oracles are my thing, right? That's my niche, that's my thing. And I teach personal transformation through using divination as a tool. So when I think of one of the most ancient and most famous temples on this planet, and there's many others, but the ones that we know of is the temple at Delphi. See, the oracle at Delphi was very important for 1400 years in classical Greek civilization. And they had an inscription on the top of the temple. And it didn't say, come and get your fortune told. It said, know thyself. And it said, nothing in excess. That was the inscription. We can't, right? We can't love and accept ourselves if we don't know ourselves. We can't be true to ourselves if we're lying to ourselves about who we are. And I think we've been faced with this in the past year and a half specifically, right? During this pandemic, everybody's been stuck at home. We've watched the biggest social justice movement, burst out and make everybody have to look at themselves, right? And so how can you be true to yourself if you're not willing to look at yourself? You can't.
And that's self-acceptance. That's radical acceptance.
Yes.
You got to go through that process. It sounds like, from what you're saying, first, you have to look within first and truly get to that point of radical acceptance and not bypass what you're feeling, understand why you're feeling it. And then you could eventually get to that true self-acceptance, self-love, being true to yourself.
And also being willing to go through the more uncomfortable feelings. Because I think when we look at ourselves, I had a lot of shame when I first got clean and sober, like a lot of shame. And shame is something that I think a lot of people feel when they recognize that they might be participating, say, for example, in something they didn't build, but they're unconsciously adding to to think. And so there can be a lot of shame, but that is something you have to work through, because that's not where the work is. The work is not the shame. That's not the work. The work is deal with your feelings, love the part of yourself that realizes, because shame is actually a good sign, and when it says I'm accountable, right? A little bit, as long as you don't wallow in it and then use it as fuel to hurt other people or to get acceptance when it's not, you know what I mean? It's not appropriate. So I think whenever we are moving through a giant change, all of us get through a little guilt, a little shame, grief, all those feelings that we want to escape. Our whole society tells us what to do not to get old, what to do to stay skinny, what to do to stay happy, what to do if you can't get it up, what to do if you, right? I mean, all of these things. But what I'm saying is to be accountable when we radically accept that what is going on that we are participating in, whether it be in a marriage. Like, what if all of a sudden, like, I'm in 18 years in this amazing marriage. I love my husband now more than I did 18 years ago. Who knew that could be possible? Like, he's so much fun, but we're getting to know each other differently. I'm going to be 63 years old. It's like my husband and I are not young spring chickens anymore. We're not jumping like on the chandeliers. It's like, who are we now? Can we radically accept each other as we are and also support? So when I don't want to get old. I'm going to admit that, but I am. I am aging. The end. It's all there is to it.
Life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's life. Exactly. And so rather than try to escape what is in every area of our life, right? I'm talking about everything from society to our smallest tiny bit of personal life. It's like we can only change ourselves. And we can only be true to what we're willing to admit to.
Yeah, you have to accept your reality. You have to accept who you are.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes a bit of denial. Like, nobody wants to feel like, everybody's been invited into this grand transformation, this great transformation that's going on right now. And a lot of people are kicking and screaming or in total denial. And that's okay. I think being true to oneself is being true to where you're at. Like, you cannot go from 0 to 1,000. There are so many steps to as you enlighten yourself about the world, about yourself. That's what the curiosity is. Everything can be exploratory, right? You get to where you get to when you're ready to get there.
Right.
Like, I hung on to a lot of things for a long time. And so I think it's really important that just being willing to be willing to be willing. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think it does have to start with willingness, because nobody's just going to go, great, I'm going to radically accept all this. It's a process.
It takes time. It takes meditation. It takes journaling. And it's so interesting too, because it's taking that first step, right?
Yeah.
And it's also about community too. Sometimes you can lean on that. And we have something wonderful coming up.
Why don't you share about this wonderful thing that we have coming up then?
Yes. We have a lovely solstice event, and it's nice because you get together with a community, and it is when you are going into a new solstice, the summer solstice.
Yeah.
It's about that light within and shining in no matter what environment, no matter what mindset, because you have to start somewhere. And it's beautiful because we get to do that as a community.
And we do, and it's fun. And when we do our activation, it's exponential. When you meditate with a giant group of people, the change is exponential. And the solstice is also a celebration of change. It's always it's always the same. Every single person on the planet, whether they're aware of it or not, are impacted by the solstice, and it comes twice a year. And it marks a change of season, but a radical change. So the first 6 months of the year and the second 6 months of the year. In the north, it's the time where the sun remains brightest for the longest day. In the southern hemisphere, it's the longest night, right? So it's about light and dark, the metaphor of light and dark, right? It is the metaphor where, in the south, they're starting to welcome back the sun, and we're starting to acknowledge that now the sun is going to wane. So what do? We harvest. What did we grow? What did we grow this year? What did we experience? What can we celebrate? What is our harvest? And right, and so that's a marker of a period of time where we're going to begin to harvest and then settle down for the winter, because it takes 6 months. The whole cycle takes 6 months, but it is that moment. And when we all get together on that, it's so awesome.
It's beautiful. It's a reflection of what you've just accomplished.
Yeah.
In your work, in whatever point in your life, you get to sit down and really reflect, and then welcome that shift of change with the solstice. And I'm so happy we're doing that this year.
Me too. And it's a way to bring in more love, right? Because that's really what we all need, is more love and radical acceptance. That's right. And holding hands. And we're going to do that.
I'm gonna be like this, everyone. At the, just imagine me holding your hand when I do that.
That's right. Awesome. Thank you for this great conversation. And there's a link somewhere for everybody to join.
Yes. There is a link in the description. So just click on that bad boy, and I can't wait to see you all there.
Okay, everybody. So click that link, and we hope to see you at our fantastic solstice celebration. Kristen will be there to hold your hand, and so will I. Take care. Click the link.